Did you know that every time you board a plane, you are trusting your life to a system of digital patterns that you cannot see? In early 2026, on a standard transatlantic flight from London to New York, something went wrong that defies all aviation physics. The plane, a sophisticated Airbus A350 on flight 815, arrived on time. The wheels touched down at JFK. The pilots completed their logs. But for exactly 7 minutes during that flight, the plane was occupied by 301 passengers, when only 300 had boarded. This is the story of the quiet passenger. The mystery began in the sky. Flight attendant Elena was conducting the second meal service, checking names against her digital manifest on her tablet. As she passed row 32, she froze. In seat 32C, an aisle seat that her tablet clearly listed as empty, sat a man in a gray suit, staring straight ahead, perfectly still. Elena didn't want to make a scene. She smiled, but the man didn't react. When she finally worked up the courage to tap his shoulder, her hand passed directly through the fabric of his jacket. There was no resistance, only a sudden intense chill that caused every device in the galley to short-circuit. Elena backed away, but when she checked her tablet again, the man was gone. But the shortwave radio she was holding picked up a frequency, a repeating loop of a pilot's voice calmly saying, "Flight 815, you are clear for a ghost approach." When Flight 815 landed, Elena reported the incident to air traffic control and federal investigators. The plane was immediately cordoned off on the tarmac. This wasn't treated as a ghost story. In 2026, an unaccounted-for presence on an aircraft is a major security breach. Investigators ran a full forensic data scan of the aircraft. They didn't find fingerprints, DNA, or personal items in seat 32C, but they found something much more disturbing. Data specialists at JFK analyzed the cabin surveillance footage. In the exact 7-minute window Elena reported, the camera over row 32 showed a localized pixel corruption, a swirling cluster of digital white noise that roughly formed the shape of a seated man. They then ran a spectrum analysis on that seat. While the rest of the cabin was warm from body heat and engine vibration, seat 32C was measuring a temperature of -40°C. This wasn't a biological presence. It was a digital ghost. The analysis team called it temporal static. They believed the man in the gray suit was not from our reality, but was a data remnant from a time loop incident that occurred in the same airspace in 1994. The aircraft hadn't carried a passenger. It had momentarily merged with a moment in the past. We began our own deep dive investigation into the archives. What we found connects Flight 815 to an event the public was never supposed to know about. In 1994, a flight from London to New York on a different airline simply vanished from civilian radar for exactly 7 minutes over the Atlantic. When it reappeared, the pilots claimed they had experienced a minor shimmer in the sky, but they landed safely. One passenger, however, was reported as disoriented. A man in a gray suit. He was Sarah, an IT expert who had been working on some of the first global data networks. When that plane landed in 1994, he claimed the walls of the aircraft were turning into binary code. He wasn't seen leaving the aircraft and was never officially listed as missing. We believe that in 1994, Sarah didn't land. He was uploaded. His entire presence was digitized by a raw energy surge in that airspace, and he became the first inhabitant of a digital liminal space. The quiet passenger isn't trying to scare people. He is trying to exit the system. He manifests on any flight that passes through that specific temporal coordinate, looking for a version of the network that will allow him to download back into a physical body. As of March 2026, the specific route Flight 815 took has been silently rerouted by the FAA. The airspace around that 1994 event has been designated a no-fly zone for environmental reasons. But the quiet passenger is not easily contained. People flying on different airlines are beginning to report seeing the man in the gray suit, not just in seat 32C, but reflecting in the cockpits and on the infotainment screens of their own flights. The FAA is silent, but private aviation analysts believe the signal is now spreading through the cloud-based networks that all modern planes use for navigation and communication. The temporal static is growing, and it is no longer confined to a single route. This case is a reminder that in our digital age, nothing is ever truly deleted. Every piece of data you create, every life you live online, it's all stored in the architecture of the web. And sometimes that architecture decides it's time to take its own seat. Next time you are on a flight and see a quiet passenger that shouldn't be there, don't tap their shoulder. You might just find that your own reflection has already become part of the loop.